Hi, this is Roger. Thanks for dropping by. Sunday chat today will be accompanied by rain. Again, just for a change. And in the packs video today, I've got some thank yous to do. We've got a surprise parcel arrived, and that needed a bit of detective work to possibly find out how that happened. I'll let you know. Oh, itchy eyes today. And there's no pollen. There certainly isn't any in here. What else? Talk about the bonsai channel, but quickly, because that's not part of this channel obviously, but they are linked, they're both me at the end of the day. And then I want to talk about something that came up as part of doing the first of the 2022 Project Orchids final look. I did the first plant back in the week, and a whole subject came up as part of reviewing that plant for the whole season, so we'll go over that. So before my coffee gets cold, let's get going. Right, so thank yous. Thank you for my subscribers. Thank you for all the thumbs up that are done on my videos, and probably more than any of that on my Orchid channel. Thank you for your comments. They are most appreciated. Gives me something to do first thing in the morning. There are days when I don't post a video, either because there isn't much going on or I'm busy doing other things, and I get up the morning after that day and sort of think, what are we going to do now then? Because that's my first job of the day, well, after feeding the cats anyway. Yeah, so thank you to all those people. Thank you to those that have gone across to the bonsai channel, and that's becoming a little more important, like now in this window. We've forgotten all about the 4,000 watch hours, that's long since passed. But we've still got to get this 1,000 subscribers, and over the last couple of weeks I've gained quite a few, and I'm now up to 935. I need 65 more subscribers on that channel to get past the 1,000, which enables me to monetize it, which eases the pressure on this channel and everything that's going on. So if anybody hasn't popped across there and subscribed, it would be greatly appreciated if you did so. The link's in the description on all the videos. As I said, it's subscribing to a channel costs nothing, and it does nothing unless you switch notifications on. Now, if you switch notifications on, you will get a notification every time that person posts a video. You don't have to do that. You can subscribe without the notification, in which case it's up to you to go and look. Yeah, so you can do it that way if you want. I mean, I don't mind if you go over to that channel and subscribe and never go back again. Just leave the subscription there so that I can get over this hurdle. So it really is nearly there now. One sort of final push could possibly do it. So if you're one of those people who never bothered, it would be nice if you did so. And while we're at it, if you're watching this and you're not subscribed, it would be nice if you did that as well. And special thank you to the patrons for hanging in there. You know, times are not easy nowadays. Money's tight to most of us, and if it's not, then think yourself lucky. But for most of us, you know, everything's costing a lot more. Just day-to-day life, everything, get in the car, put fuel in it, all that sort of stuff. It's all costing more, and some of us are on a fixed budget. You know, so be it. Right, I had a surprise package during the week. Let's go and have a look at that. Right, so this just turned up in the week, out of the blue, I thought, and then I thought again, and I thought, I've seen this package before. How can this be, you ask yourselves? And I ask myself, how can this be? This package turned up at my place with attached to a postman. Hello. And basically he said, are you expecting anything remotely looking like this? And I said, no. And he said, it's got, the address on it is 1B. I think that's what he said, anyway, it's a while back now. And he said, I've tried number 1 and it isn't number 1 and it isn't 16. So I thought perhaps it might be 16B, which is you. And I said, well, I'm not expecting anything. And he said, do you recognise the person, the sender? No, I didn't. So Postman Pat took it back and returned to sender. And it's turned up again, this time with the right address on it. And I'm thinking to myself, it's the same package, so how do we get from the wrong address to the right address? Because I don't give my address out lightly, and the same with the phone number. That's, you know, that's nothing to do with channels and things, that's private stuff. So how did this wrong address suddenly become a right address? So the detective hat went on, super sleuth. Now I might be wrong, you know, but they always say with detective work, the most obvious answer is probably the right one. And maybe this is the right one. So, if you remember, I said I had a strange email from Trey Saunders. I've got a little bit of a surprise for you. Could you give me your address? I know Trey well. He's one of the traders I've known for many years, and he's done talks at societies and stuff. Know him quite well. So if he wants my address, he's welcome to it, especially as he's got a little surprise for me. Twist that round. What if this person, after my address to send me something, knows that I know Trey and also knows Trey? Is that the link where the wrong address turned into the right address? That could be total cobblers. Anyway, what is it? You're all sitting there going, what is it? What is it? What is it? Well, what it is first of all a nice card, nice painting of a nice little cove in, that'd be Devon or Cornwall. Mullion Cove, Cornwall. As I say, it's Devon or Cornwall, you can tell by the coastline. And the brickwork and the little boats. So that was nice, and it says, Dear Roger, hope this may be of some use clearing your garden. Now you've got a hint. Take care, love your videos, best wishes, Valerie Jackson. Thank you, Valerie. And however you got my address. The only other, I was just thinking, the only other time my address has ever gone out is to do with orchids, but it hasn't, it's the other way round. People have had to give me their address so that I could send them the orchids. They don't need mine, do they? Anyway, what it is, it's a giant garden sack, which basically opens up into a large bag. If I get this unfolded, I'll never get it folded up again. So basically it's a large sack with handles that you set up in the garden, and you put all your garden rubbish in it, and then you take the whole thing and throw it in the back of your car and take it round the tip. So yes, that could be useful. We will give it a try at some point, but not at the moment. I haven't cleared up the garden. I haven't even started clearing up the garden yet, simply because it won't stop raining, and it gets on your nerves. Every day, rain. And some of it's been very heavy as well. You know, we've had a lot of water lying around. Certainly don't need to water anything in the garden. Yeah, so thank you very much for that. And as I said, it was a surprise what was in it, and how it got to me needed a little bit of thought, and as I said, I could be totally wrong. But somehow or other my address has snuck out. And thank you, Valerie, and I'd appreciate it if the address doesn't go any further. It's been used now, so good stuff. Right, so that's that. And then we get on to what did I come across in the 2022 Project Orchids final look, orchid number 1. So it's the first one of the 9. First one of the 9. Sorry, that's just one of those little trigger expressions, the 9. Where have you heard that expression before? The 9. Anyway, yeah, so I'm just going to move the camera for a minute because I want something near me. Okay, so what happened during that orchid number 1? Well, it consisted of a video clip of a plant in March, and then another clip in May, another one in July, another one in September, and then looking at the plant as it is now in November. That's what the Project Orchid's final look videos are made up of, those clips for each of the plants in turn. And listening to what I was saying in the clips, I mean, obviously my memory's not that good to remember what I said in March about 9 separate plants. So, you know, I listened to them all again when I put the video together. And it dawned on me, it was a dendrobium, probably more noticeable with those types of dendrobiums than any of my other plants, because those types of dendrobiums are very seasonal, and their seasons are quite precise, within a week or two, year on year. And this year they were all wrong. And it became very obvious, looking through those video clips for orchid number 1, what the problem was. And I discussed it in the last clip. Now I'm going to elaborate on it a bit more, because it's how things are and I've got to put up with it. That's right. Under my nose is wafting. I'll show you what it is. It's a manky looking plant that's flowered. It's that rescue zygo, the couple of back bulbs that I threw in a pot. It's managed to bloom, and the fragrance is getting a bit... In fact, I'm going to move it because it's literally right under my nose. We'll put it over there just for now, because there's another one here, but this one hasn't got so much fragrance. That's the Louisendorf. That's lovely blooms on that. Large zygos as well. Right, so what's happened this year? We're into November now. I moved in December, so we've nearly done a complete year. And all bar the whistling and shouting, we've done a year really, haven't we? So what was different? Now, we've got short days, December, January and into the start of February. Those are our shortest days. That's the period of the year with the shortest days. Well, that doesn't change from the old place to the new place, does it? And in the old place during those shortest days, when the sun came round over the house, it was weak and very low in the sky, and low enough in the sky that the fence and the hedge between me and next door cast a shadow about 2/3 up the glass. So the only bit of the grow room that got a bit of sun was one side for a few hours, and then it got a bit of filtered sun through that big tree because the leaves were off at that time of year. Nonetheless, that little bit of sun, as it moved on into February, was enough to raise my daytime temperatures by a few degrees. Okay, only maybe 3, maybe 4 degrees. That's different to nothing, isn't it? It's something. Something is different to nothing. So now we're talking February into March. By the time we get into March, the sun is climbing up over that fence, and that shadow was moving down the glass. Yeah? So it was hitting more of the glass. It therefore had more of an effect. So what are we getting then? So out into February and on into March, in the old place, we were getting a rise in daytime temperatures at the start of the season, where it should be. Yeah? And then obviously from about April onwards, I spent the whole of the next 6 or 7 months trying to keep the place cool because it got too hot. And that was that. That was there. Now let's bring that same season to here this year. We had no sun on any of the glass until we got to about, probably less than, but around a 3-month period in the centre of summer. Now, given the longest day is towards the end of June, you know, we're looking at start of May up into August, towards the end of August. That was the period when there was some sun on the roof. Never any sun on the side, only on the roof. But it was enough to raise the daytime temperatures. And during that period with the sun on the roof here, we had daytime temperatures between 25 and at the peak when the sun was on the maximum amount of the roof, which was half of it, all day, for the amount of time it could spend there, we got up to about 28. That was the maximum. And that was only during that period when the sun hit the roof. Now, we've had a mild autumn so far, although not yesterday, the day before, I think it was borderline of frost. It was the cold morning, just the one. It's gone all mild and drizzly again now. So when the outside temperatures here are mild at night, and it's still, you know, double figures, 10, 11, 12 degrees at night, in here my little dehumidifier is enough. It gives off enough heat to stop the heater kicking in. Yeah. Now obviously as the temperatures drop outside, they will get lower in here and the heater will kick in on the thermostat. So that solves the winter problem. But what happened late February into March and on into April in here this year? What happened was we didn't get much difference between the day and the nighttime temperatures. We didn't get the rise in daytime temperatures. What triggers some plants into bloom and or growth? We call it spring. It doesn't matter what part of the world you're in, or if you're in a two-season part of the world, it's the start of the rainy season. But whatever, what happens is the day lengths get longer and the day temperatures rise. And it's the pair of those that trigger some plants, including some I've got in here, to bloom. What didn't I get? I didn't get the rise in the daytime temperatures. Something in those plants still seemed to manage to get them to bloom, which implies to me it's the drop in temperature and hopefully the brighter light in the winter, because a lot of these types of dendrobiums come from deciduous forests, so the leaves drop. So, you know, they're getting less water, they're getting less feed, because it doesn't rain as often, simple as that. Hardly rains at all in some areas. And they've got their shortest days, whatever that is. Certain parts of the world, shortest day is never less than 11 hours. The sun swings between 11 and 13 hours, and that's the only variable they get. We go from less than 8 to more than 16. It's a bit bigger than 2 hours, isn't it? Yeah. So anyway, here we didn't get the rise in the daytime temperatures to go with the extending day lengths. And quite a lot of my plants did not start growing. A lot still bloomed a bit later than normal, but not ridiculously late. But the new growths on a lot of my dendrobiums was 6 or 7 weeks late starting. Now compared with the previous place, that's a third of the way through the growing season and they've only just started. Now that's how it's going to be in here, so I'm going to have to make allowances. Strange though it is, a lot of those plants are still growing now, and it's November. They should be resting. Now I wonder why that is. Think it through. Start the season and the end of the season, spring and autumn, temperature wise and day length wise are roughly the same, aren't they? So what's happening in here now? We're not getting a drop in daytime temperatures because we haven't got any daytime temperature, have we? I'm not getting, it's 17 or 18 in here now. And the only reason it's that warm in here is because that door's open and it's nicking all the heat out of my lounge. So I just have to put a jumper on when I go in there. So the plants are still growing. And they're still growing because although the day lengths are shortening, the temperatures are not significantly dropping because they're hovering around the same, and they have been like this for over a month now. So they're carrying on growing, and I think they will for a while. They'll probably get triggered when we do get some cold weather. This weather will eventually break, and we will get the frosts, and we will get the cooler nights and cooler days to go with them. So we have an environmental change in here that is having quite a dramatic effect on some of my orchids, and not much effect at all on others. Because there are some orchids that are seasonal purely because it takes them a year to mature something. Simple as that. And with these dendrobiums that's sort of true, but they've got this additional requirement of needing a drop in temperatures, a rise in light levels, and a shortening day. And to function normally, they need all three of those. Well, I've lost one. Now let's think what happened. Did they still bloom? Yes. Did they bloom 6 weeks late? No. A bit late. 2 or 3 weeks perhaps. So we can pretty safely say that it's probably the shortening days and the lengthening days that triggers the blooms. But it's the temperature drop and increase during the day that triggers the new growths. And it might be a bit of both for both. So it could be a bit of both that affect the blooming and the start of the new growths. Now if you think what happens in here, if I followed those silly ancient rules in the books, if I followed all that nonsense with resting dendrobiums, don't give any feed and water until you see the new growths. They wouldn't have got fed till flipping June, would they? It's nonsense. So anyway, I've got to put up in some cases with some of my plants having a shortened season. I can't afford to raise daytime temperatures with artificial heating, as well as trying to stop them getting too cold at night. I can't afford to do that. Heater, I would have to adjust the thermostat twice a day, and it would get forgotten now and again, and I'd have it steaming hot in here during the night because I forgot to drop it down, and it would be a faff that I'm not prepared to do, and I couldn't afford to do it. Simple as that. I'm reluctantly, I've dropped my temperature down at nights in here now to try and avoid that heater coming on quite so often. I can't shut it down altogether. I will lose 2/3 of the plants in here. They will not tolerate the lower temperatures. So an environmental change that was unexpected. Now, let's have a think about shortening day lengths, end of the rainy season, and drops in temperatures. What else happens, certainly in the autumn, in a lot of these types of forests? With the drop in temperature, the relative humidity climbs and turns into mist and fog. So we get a lot of, pardon me, misty, foggy, damp, dank forests in the autumn like that. And if you've got mist and fog and stuff like that, your light level drops, doesn't it? Now you might get odd bursts of sunshine through when there isn't any, but you're going to get a light level drop. I didn't get a light level drop either. I only got a light level increase when the sun hit the roof for that 8 or 9 week period. As I said, it's strange, the shadow starts here at the back, and then gradually as the days get longer the sun gets higher and that shadow creeps up here till it gets to that halfway line, and that's as far as it ever gets. So for a sort of 3 or 4 week period, half of the roof is in sun for some of the day. Not all day, because the house is still in the way. This hedge and that huge tree is still in the way. So it's not all day, it's just part of it. But it's enough to give me a daytime temperature. So there we go. We discovered that just by doing that first plant number 1 and seeing those clips one after the other, and the fact that it was a resting type dendrobium. Had that been a Masdevallia, I wouldn't have noticed it. But I have noticed it now, and there's nothing I can do about it. I'm going to have to live with the way it is. Now that might mean that some of my plants are not going to do as well as they should do because of the effect that this new environment is going to have on them. And it might be that the plants to go to others to try, the number might increase as a consequence. But we've only had 1 year at it, you know, and plants do adapt. They are, you know, orchids are adaptable. In amongst orchids there are some fussy tykes, and you've only got to deviate a little bit from absolute perfection and they start going downhill. And it may be slowly and it can be quite quick. So some like a very precise environment, and if you deviate from that they just don't do well. And others will put up with quite a bit of, I was just going to say deviance then, deviation, let's get me words right. Yeah, they'll put up with deviation from their ideal world and still be okay. I mean, if you think about orchids, that wind, you know, seed whizzes off in the wind and the breeze. You know, it lands on the ground, it gets stuck in cracks in bark on trunks, it lands high up in the trees, it blows out of the forest into the farmland and all stuff. And most of it is never going to germinate. And only a few will germinate because they've landed in the right place, in a place that's suitable to germinate. Then you will get some that germinate and they're still in the wrong place. So although it had all the factors necessary for germination, it hasn't got the factors suitable for that plant to thrive, so they can still die in their, you know, first year. So they're not very successful orchids. That's why they produce tens or hundreds of thousands of seeds in a pod on one plant. It gives them a better hit, you know. So there we go. The plants that are doing well that I didn't know were going to do well are, and that's the cymbidiums. Well, we could have lots more of them then, couldn't we? Well, yeah, I'll need a bigger place to keep them in, won't I? And they've got to go outside for the summer, which is the reason they're doing okay, is because they had that summer weather. And then they had their late summer into early autumn nighttime drop, which is the formation of the spikes. So, but yeah, there are some plants in here that are going to tolerate these environmental changes, and there are some that are not going to. And they'll get weeded out slowly but surely. Hopefully I can catch enough of them to get to other people before they die, to give them a chance. We shall see. So that's that. And that'll do. Coming up this week, it's the 6th today. We had whizzes and pops and bangs last night, but I know this is going to sound awful, but my cats are no longer petrified of the fireworks because they're both getting hard of hearing. I don't think they even heard them. And there wasn't that much going on here compared with where I used to live. We used to get 2 weeks of it every night. And I was close enough to some major displays, you know, where you get those, you know, it's not a firework, it's a flipping nuclear weapon, you know, they're about this big. They take 2 people to carry them and put them down. And if you remember when you were young, lots of people had garden fireworks in those days. They weren't huge explosions, mortar shells and stuff like that. And they used to say, light blue touch paper and stand well back. All nice and polite and genteel. Some of these fireworks nowadays, light blue touch paper and turn and run like... I can remember I went shopping with a guy to get some fireworks. He was having a firework party, and he went in the shop, and I smoked then, so I stayed outside the shop and I was having a cigarette, and he came out with this huge carrier bag with this one firework in the middle of his carrier bag that was sticking out the top. You know, it was like about 2 foot by about 1 foot across, like that. And I said, how far away from that do you have to stand to be safe watching it? Oh, I didn't look. 20 metres. I said, how big's your garden? 5 metres. I said, where are you going to go to watch that then? He said, upstairs in the bedroom. He hadn't thought it through. You know, there are some fireworks you need to be a fair distance away from. They're not for small gardens, they're for big displays. Anyway, so the cats had a normal night last night. They didn't take any notice of anything. But there wasn't a huge amount to take notice of. Now there will still be some more fireworks tonight, I suspect, because last night it was a miserable night. It was damp and drizzly and wasn't ideal for being outside, sort of thing. So maybe some people will have delayed until tonight. I don't know. So anyway, that's done for another year. We usually get a few around Christmas and New Year. There's always fireworks, but it just seems that this area is just a quieter area than where I used to live. A bit more civilised. Makes me laugh when you get loads of fireworks going off at 10:30, 11 o'clock at night. The kids are all in bed, aren't they? It's grown-ups. It's big kids out there with their flipping fireworks. Anyway, that's done for another year. So, yes, things coming up. Obviously, these 2022 Project Orchids videos, there's another 8 to go. And I don't want them running on until Christmas, so I'm going to have to squash them up a little bit. And they're not the most popular videos, but I need to get them done. There are enough people want to see them that I will finish off the project and get them all done. So there'll be a few of those dotted around. We've got everything in bloom on the 8th, so that's in 2 days' time. And for those of you who are interested, over on the bonsai channel there's an unboxing video, the latest one, and it's the biggest box you have ever seen. And one person got some useless Roger points for actually guessing what it was some time ago before it arrived. Anyway, that particular video on the bonsai channel discusses quite a major change of plans for the garden, for the bonsai tree. So if you want to have a listen to that, wander across, and don't forget to hit that subscribe while you're there if you haven't done it already. But yes, a very large box with something nice inside. And in addition, I was waiting to find out how good the contents of that box were to decide whether to order a second one, and I have now gone ahead and ordered the second one. So if you want to know all about that, that's on the bonsai channel. And on this channel we've got a variety of things. We've still got things like one shelf rack at a time. I can slot one of them in now and again. We've got the Project Orchids, we've got everything in bloom coming up this week, and in 2 weeks' time we've got a show to go to. That'll be the last show of the year. Devon Orchid Society. There'll be society displays there from Devon, from Cornwall, and I think Bournemouth, who I'm no longer a member of, but you know, apart from one individual, I talked to them all. Still buddies and all that. We had a nice chat at the Wessex one. But so 3 Orchid Society displays, and it's held at Burnham's Nursery. So as far as videos are concerned, we'll have some orchid displays and we'll have a look around the nursery. And traders there, obviously Burnham's, were in their building. I think Lawrence Hobbs will be there and Trey Saunders will be there. So that's, I can't remember what his site is. Botanic Orchids? Orchids Botanic? Or is it Elite Orchids? I've forgotten. Anyway, so 3 traders, including Burnham's, and 3 Orchid Societies, so we should get some good videos out of that. And I'm picking Lynn up on the way, so we will go together and stop at the usual breakfast stop and have probably the best coffee in the world. You know, it seriously is the best coffee I've ever had anyway, and Lynn agrees. Yeah, and we'll have a nice breakfast and everything, and then make our way on to the Orchid Society. And I shall be taking the orchids for Sean, the ones that he's going to have. That saves packing and postage. All I've got to do is get them safe in a box sort of thing, and we can he's a member of Devon Orchid Society. He will be there anyway, so we can transfer those orchids across. So that'll get that out of the way. And yeah, no, I'm quite looking forward to that. And as I said, that'll be the last show for the year. There won't be anything else in the Orchid Show arena probably until the end of February, which will be Bournemouth's. They usually start the season off, Bournemouth Orchid. And then our Wessex one will be in March, but you know, we're out into next year now. So there we go. And I'll see you next time. Thanks for dropping by. Thanks for joining in the Sunday chat thing. I know it is mostly just me stood here waffling away like that. We haven't looked at many plants. And I will show this one actually to end with, simply because when I bought it home from the Wessex show, this was a new acquisition last weekend, the blooms weren't properly open, they were quite cup-like, yeah? They've opened a bit flatter. To my surprise, because I thought they were a type of coleogeny that didn't open up fully, but they have. So we've actually got a nice display of blooms now. The other two new growths, I deliberately picked this one because effectively it had 3 growths on it, but the other two here, they are opening their top. Once that happens, you rarely get a spike come out. The spike usually pushes them open. So if the leaves open and no spikes showed itself above the leaves, then the chances are it's not going to bloom. But obviously the bloom spike, when that finishes, the growth that the spike came out of will still turn into a viable pseudobulb. So it will still swell up and become a pseudobulb like the rest. And the other two non-bloomers, they will do the same and produce 2 nice big bulbs, hopefully. And then they will produce new growths next year, towards the end of the summer, and they should bloom. So we should get at least 2 spikes next time. Plus this one will produce a new growth, and that may bloom as well. So next time we may get 3 blooms. We've got good bulbs. It's well rooted in the pot. It won't budge, and I can see some of the roots running around the top of the pot. So it's well rooted. Thank you, Arthur, for doing a good job potting those up and splitting them. Yeah, so I'm pleased with that. There is a fragrance there, but it's faint. You tend to go with these. The Moriana is one of the set that's called the Big Whites. So it's a set of coleogenies that have pristine white blooms with a colour in the lip. Anything from the palest of yellows right through to deep gold and even orangey red. Yeah, but the bloom itself is a pristine white. And there's a set of them, and this is one. So there we go. See you next time. Thanks for dropping by.